Hi guys, this is quite frustrating. So Lewis Goodall raises two interesting points here. First of all, how the media are not pushing back on Farage. And second, how politicians on the centre and on the right are galloping, as he'll use this term, towards the far right in order to out-Farage. But the problem here is the media, which Lewis unfortunately doesn't go into much depth in, but I will. Have a listen.
Far better would be to actually go after Farage on some of the detail, which is, for example, again, just sort of completely lacking. I mean, again, at that press conference, he was asked about what you do with migrants when you can't send them back to an unsafe country like Afghanistan. And he says, I'm sorry, I've had enough of this. If you come from Afghanistan, you go back to Afghanistan. I'm done. Like, that's fine to say, but guess what? You know who's in office in Afghanistan? The Taliban. We do not have a returns agreement with the Taliban. We can't fly people, practically speaking, into Afghanistan. Forget about the legal framework. We can't fly them in. What we're going to do? Parachute them in? Just sort of do an airdrop of people over Kabul?
Over Mazar-e-Sharif or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on. And this is again the problem with the kind of radicalization of the discourse, is that it happens in its own terms, in its own bubble, in its own world. And reality, well, never the twain shall meet, right? And this is the and I think this is the bigger problem as well, with mainstream conservative centre-right politicians moving, as I say, galloping with the Overton window to what used to be the preserve of the radical right. Because what that means is that well, what is left for the actual far right? Where do they go? Well, they move even further to the right. And you can see this in terms of anyone who's been on X recently can see the level of profound racism which would once have been confined to the darkest corners of the mainstream internet and mainstream discourse, wouldn't have even been in public discourse, is so virulent, so ubiquitous, being rehearsed and rehashed by people who have got shows on television news channels and huge online followings, and certain academics, quote unquote, so repeating and regurgitating this stuff.
Now, he's right about that, but the fundamental problem starts with the media. The media has allowed Nigel Farage a massive platform and an unchallenged one. And there's no point talking about, well, we need to hold Nigel Farage to account now. It's too late. The Overton window has moved to the right because of that. Politicians have moved to the right because the media has not held Nigel Farage to account. Farage was the tail wagging the Tory dog for so many years. And what did the Tories do? Ordinary mainstream conservatives moved to the right because they believed, well, we need to start talking about immigration because Farage is talking about immigration. You had the media following Farage with his binoculars down to the coast, to the Kent coast, to look at boats. Farage is talking about boats. Let's send a team out there as well. We know that the small boat crossings represent about 3% of all immigration, but it's been amplified because Farage is talking about it. So Nigel Farage has been able to manipulate the media to such an extent that politicians believed, well, we need to be talking about exactly the same stuff. And it's not just the Conservatives, it's even the Labour government. We need to be tough on immigration because Farage is tough on, or his rhetoric is tough on immigration. And the media has not held him to account. It's too late at this stage because he's already got a voter bloc locked in and he also is appealing beyond that. So while you can start to push back on what Farage is saying about sending people to Afghanistan, the damage has already been done. The mainstream politics has moved to the right. Now, the public have not moved to the right. The public still hold on to ideas of decency and humanity, but the politicians are not embracing that. When was the last time you heard a politician, and you don't even have to be on the left, I'm just talking about generally a politician, who talked about immigration in a positive way? I think Keir Starmer mentioned something back in 2020. But recently, when was the last time, apart from somebody from the Green Party or the SNP or a left-wing politician, I'm talking about a mainstream party like the Conservatives or the Labour Party, never mind Reform, actually spoke about immigration in a positive way. I haven't heard it. because the media has allowed Farage to set the narrative. And now the narrative is sort of locked in, that immigration is a problem, the numbers need to come down, that people coming in small boats represent a threat to national security. And as Lewis Goodall has said here, where does the far right go after that? They go even more extreme. If you look on social media, if you look on YouTube, some of the videos that are getting most of the views are these protests outside hotels. So the people who are pumping out this material are getting a lot of traction. And this is also part of the problem. But this idea that we now need to hold Nigel Farage to account is for the birds. It's too late at this stage. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video.